G'day there guys, my name's Marky, and welcome back to some more stories from Reddit. Hope you enjoy. Am I the asshole for giving my gluten-free mother gluten without telling her? So my mother and I don't have a great relationship. Throughout my life, she has pushed all kinds of fad diets, self-help flavored fads, and even conversion therapy via the troubled teen industry on me. She's never apologized for any of it, despite me telling her how much it all messed me up. I still haven't mustered up the guts to go no contact because she's still married to my dad, who I do get along with and generally like. Well, I recently moved to a new place in a really nice area because I just got a really nice new job. Suddenly, my mom really wants to come and visit and see me. I do my best to make up excuses, but she pushes so hard that eventually I cave. One of the things I've been doing since moving into my new place is a lot of cooking because I have a nice big kitchen all to myself. I love weird food, and finding new ways to get protein in my diet without using meat. Something I've had a lot of fun making lately is latiao. It's probably not weird to some people, but to my sheltered American self, it was funky as hell, and I loved the idea of it. So I started making it from scratch and discovered that I loved it. Well, my mom and dad got here yesterday afternoon or evening and settled in, and we started talking about dinner. As usual, Mum has to pick after looking at online menus for a couple of hours to make sure they fit with her dietary requirements. She ends up picking a vegan restaurant that's across town, but she's just so tired from the drive up that she can't fathom getting back in the car. So Dad and I agree to go pick it up while she rests. Driving across my new city is a long process, which I told her ahead of time, and it's a little over an hour later when we get home with the vegan/gluten-free food that she wanted. She's not vegan, but she is adamantly gluten-free and has been for a few years now. We get inside, and as I'm opening the food in the kitchen, I notice the Pyrex Snapware container of latiao that was in my fridge is now empty in my sink. She even dumped out the sauce that I'd been soaking them in. I asked her if she'd eaten something out of my fridge while we were gone, and she said that yes, she has eaten some chicken because she was getting lightheaded from hunger, but it was terrible and she was ready for some real food. Now, this is where I might have been the asshole. Instead of telling her what she had actually eaten, I just rolled my eyes and dished up the food for everyone, and we ate. She continued to remark about how bad and oily the chicken was, and how relieved she was to finally eat something substantial throughout the rest of the evening. My dad kept trying to change the subject, and she kept coming back to it. I finally snapped when she brought it up again first thing this morning when I was picking them up from their hotel. I asked them where they wanted to go for breakfast, and my mum made a joke about not wanting me to cook them breakfast because she didn't want more oily chicken or something to that effect. I finally said, "Mum, that was homemade latiao, and I don't understand why you ate all of it if you hated it so much." She asked me what latiao is, and I explained that it's just vital wheat gluten and water steamed and soaked in sauce. I practically watched as her face dropped, and sure enough, within 30 minutes, her stomach was killing her, and she was having difficulty breathing and needed to go to the emergency room. The whole time we were there, she went on and on to the nurses and doctors about how I had fed her gluten and not told her until it was too late for her to take her medicine, and crying because now the whole trip was ruined. Mind you, this is the hospital where I work. My dad pulled me aside to tell me that he was disappointed that I hadn't spoken up last night, and how what I'd done not only hurt my mother's feelings, but also put her health and safety at risk. He asked me to go home and think about my actions and give my mother some space. And now I'm just sitting here alone in my cool new place, feeling like a dick and super anxious about what work is going to be like next week. I'm torn because I don't think that it's my fault that she ate my food without talking to me first, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't omit the information about what she'd eaten because I was pissed at her and just didn't want to discuss it further. I also didn't expect it to make her so sick. So am I the asshole? In the comments, Lapsteel Guitar says, "Your mum took food out of your fridge and ate it without checking first as to what it was. This is not on you. As for not telling your mum last night and her physical reaction this morning, this is a mental issue, not a physical issue. She didn't get sick until she found out what she ate. She's fine. I bet she never eats anything from your fridge again. Not the asshole." Who eats something out of someone's fridge that they don't know what they're eating when they have food allergies? Not the asshole. You didn't give it to her, she took it without even knowing what it was. Whether you told her at the time, or whenever you did, the outcome would have still been the same, and you'd have still been made out to be the bad guy in the situation. It was a lose-lose situation. My nephew has celiac disease, and is a 4 to 5-year-old. The parents would have specifically asked regarding food being prepared safely for him. My brother-in-law let them know that they would know before the end of the meal if the restaurant provided a safe gluten-free meal. Lady complaining of medical concerns after finding out the next day? Come on. Yeah, she's a bit of a wally, that one. Don't know why she's being so dramatic as to put on such a show the next day. Like, she's such a good actor. She's so good at faking medical emergencies and then embarrassing you at your place of work, knowing that you work there. I'm sorry, but if I had a mother like that, I'd be going very low contact with them until they stop pulling that shit. Like, how embarrassing. And I know that you wanted to go no contact with her because of your dad, but you can talk to him and be like, hey, she sucks. I respect that you want to be with her still, but I'd rather be your mate than her mate. She is an embarrassment. She embarrasses me. She takes advantage of me. You saw how she acted on this trip, and if you continue to placate that behavior of hers, we're gonna have a problem. That's what you should do in this situation, OP. You're not the asshole here for giving it to her because you didn't give it to her. She snooped around and found out. That's not your fault. And now, onto the update. So I just got home, and after everything that went down this morning, I went back to the hospital to check on my parents. My mom was sleeping and still in the ED, and so I got to talk to my dad and the doctor a bit. My dad still thought that I should apologize. I told him I would when she woke up. When I talked to the doctor a bit, I started asking about testing. I asked if they'd done a test for the specific kind of immunoglobulin present in celiacs when someone has gluten, and she said she hadn't actually needed to because apparently my mum had that test done in the past with her PCP. The doctor asked me if I worked in the medical field, and I told her that yes, I worked in the lab. She then volunteered a bit more information than she probably should have, but I'm glad she did because I feel a bit better. She managed to get my mum's lab results faxed over and looked them over. Apparently, my mum's TTG IgA was low enough that it was absolutely clear that my mother does not have celiac disease. The doctor had offered to refer her for a biopsy, which is standard procedure for confirmation of celiac, and my mother declined. I later confirmed with my dad that it was because she didn't think that it was worth it to go through all the expense and pain of surgery to confirm something she already knows. Furthermore, according to the nurse, my mother was given lorazepam, which he was told was for her stomach pain and nausea. He actually put this in air quotes with his fingers. In case you were not familiar with lorazepam, it's a benzo that is also used as an antipsychotic/anti-anxiety sedative along with gastro symptoms. Apparently the medicine my mum was talking about was some kind of holistic/herbal thing. The cherry on top is that the nurse is Chinese and loves Latiao, and I now have a new work friend. I thanked them all for their help, and they indicated that she was ready to be discharged. My dad was not inclined to wake her up, but I explained that there were other people waiting that needed to be seen, and they couldn't be seen if there were no open beds. I then asked the doctor if she could write my mum a script for more lorazepam, which she agreed to, which seemed to placate my dad. I wheeled my mum out to the car. She was high as hell and going on and on about how she couldn't believe that I'd poisoned her, and if I wasn't her daughter, then I'd be going to prison. I just apologized. I didn't offer any excuses. When I got them to their hotel, and my mum was waiting on a couch in the lobby while my dad grabbed her bags from my car, I told my dad it was probably better if they just go home. I'm not gonna lie, I got a little emotional, and he agreed. So yeah, based on the lab work and the way the ED staff were acting, I'm convinced my mum was faking for sympathy and attention. Not that it matters, because my dad will always support her no matter what. I'm never having them over again. In the comments, Capybara Cuddles says, "It's really tough to live with a center-stage mother and complicit father. At least they were plain right away. I'm really glad that this time you told your dad to his face that he should leave. That took guts." OP says, Honestly, I've done this to myself multiple times. Every time I see my mum, I hope that things will be better, and every time I get my heart broken. I haven't seen them for years now, and once again, I kind of naively got my hopes up after I caved. When she's not around, I really enjoy hanging out with my dad, and that's what makes this so hard to commit to. It's called toxic hope, and it's hella hard to let go of it. Are there articles about toxic hope? It sounds like something I need to read up on. I'm sure there are, but I don't know of any offhand. It was a phrase an old therapist used to describe me wanting a different relationship with my mum than what she was capable of having with me. Constantly hoping she would change, and the subsequent crushing disappointment in her and anger at myself when she couldn't was incredibly toxic. And like most toxic materials, you can get rid of the bulk of it, but traces always seem to remain, popping up when you least expect it. Damn. Quotes, my dad still thought I should apologize, and I told him I would, and I just apologized. OP, I hope you're in therapy. You literally found out from medical staff that she's an effing liar, and you still apologized. You need to learn how to advocate for yourself, set healthy boundaries, and hold others to account. OP says, I am. Sometimes you just gotta say what it takes to get through the day. I know what you mean though. I read your other story. Your dad is not your friend or a good guy. These relationships aren't worth it. And the thing is, if you're in OP's situation, it's so easy for other people to say that to you. But when you're in the midst of it, and it's someone that you love and you care about, and you write things that show they are toxic and they aren't good for you, but you're still attached to them, that's hard. That's really hard to let go of someone like that. I really do empathize with OP in this situation, and really, their decision to not have their parents over again is probably the best middle ground that you can have in this situation. As nice as it would be to hear about them cutting the parents off or going low contact, extremely low contact with them, I don't know how realistic that really is. How many people are actually willing to make that change in their lives? We can inform people as much as possible on Reddit and YouTube and give them guidance until the cows come home, but I don't expect another update from OP. I don't think that OP will cut her parents out of her life. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it is what it is. As always, thank you for sharing your story with us. That was a bit of a frustrating ending, but I get where you're coming from. Our next post is by user For the Good Times, titled, Am I the asshole for telling my sister I won't be her surrogate? I, Celeste, 30 female, have an identical twin sister. We'll call her Stacy for the sake of the story. Our mother unfortunately passed in child labor, and we were raised by our father. Stacy has been married to Jeff for 8 years. I have been in a relationship with Mike for 3 years now. One thing I've always known about my sister is that she wanted to be a mom. Even when we were children, she was always thinking about wedding ideas, nursery themes, baby names, etc. I was always more focused on books and having fun. I am now a flight attendant. I am also attempting to become a published author. My sister has not worked, ever, honestly. When we graduated high school, we went straight to college, she met her boyfriend in college, and once she graduated, she became a stay-at-home girlfriend until she became his wife. I've known for a while that my sister has been attempting to become pregnant unsuccessfully. She's experienced a single miscarriage and has been unable to become pregnant again after thousands and thousands of dollars being spent on IVF, and pretty much anything they could do because she wanted to experience pregnancy. After 5 years of no success, they've started to discuss other options. My sister isn't interested in adoption and is very adamant on having a child that has both of their DNA. Her words, not mine. About 3 weeks ago, she came to my house and we were hanging out as we usually do, just chatting and watching Modern Family. She told me she had a serious question and needed to ask me while she still had her nerves. It scared me, but she asked if I could be her surrogate. I was frozen for a second and asked what she meant. She told me that I knew what surrogacy was. She needed me to be her surrogate. I expressed that she knew that I wasn't interested in having children. This could definitely be due to how we came into the world, but I'll be honest and say I have never found the thought of having children appealing in any way. I told her that I would have zero issues with donating my eggs to her. However many she needed, she could have them all. But I could not carry her child. Upon hearing that, she became so angry. Her face was so red, and she was just yelling about how it's obvious how jealous and hateful I am because this is a small task. I didn't want to bring it to her attention that she has always spoke about having more than 4 kids. Would the expectation be for me to do this every time? I don't know. I'm starting to feel so bad. She ended up telling me that if I couldn't do this one thing for her, then how could I ever call myself her sister? She broke a picture of us that I have sitting on my mantle and stormed out. Since then, she's only texted me pictures of her diaries from when we were kids, and all of their vision boards saying that I'm stopping her from creating a family for no reason and to think about the bigger picture. My boyfriend refuses to give me advice, saying that it's my sister and he doesn't feel comfortable attempting to sway me in either direction because it's such a touchy subject. Honestly, this is the longest I've ever gone without communicating with my sister, and I'm seriously on the verge of giving in. In the comments, DuckDuckGoose1 says, "Most doctors would refuse to allow you to be a surrogate as you've not previously had children. She'll be hard-pressed to find one that would. Not to mention, she's asking her sister to sacrifice her body and potentially her life to fulfill her dream. That is not fair at all. If she can afford IVF, she can afford a surrogate, not the arsehole." I'd also add that her losing her temper in this way screams she's not stable enough to enter this sort of relationship with, not the arsehole. She did it to manipulate her sister. If she has a kid, she'll manipulate its whole life to match her vision boards. And that "we're sisters" argument goes both ways. If she loved OP as a sister, she would accept her decision. It has nothing to do with being related. If you're asking someone to be a surrogate or to donate eggs, then you need to be prepared for them to say no. If your attitude towards your family and friends will change if they deny your request for fertility assistance, don't effing ask in the first place. You're assuming that she cares. Silly mistake. Not the arsehole. You are not the arsehole for refusing to be a surrogate for your sister. It's your body, and you have the right to decide what you do with it. Your sister's reaction is unreasonable and manipulative, and you shouldn't feel pressured into doing something that you're not comfortable with. This goes beyond being unreasonable. This is the sister acting entitled over OP's life and body just because of her own dreams of having kids with her shared DNA. To hell with OP's own decision of not going through birth because of what happened to their mother. It's only the sister's dreams that matter. The sister is acting like a damn child who isn't ready to be a parent. Quote, "It's obvious how jealous and hateful I am because this is a small task." This is not a small task. This is one of the most serious medical procedures that one could ever go through. Not the arsehole. Back up to the post, there is an edit. I am reading all the comments, and I want to say thank you so much. I feel so much better knowing that I'm not the villain, but I'd be lying if I said that I'm not leaning towards just doing it. This disconnect with my sister brings me immense discomfort in ways that I cannot verbally express. But I see 2 frequent questions that I want to answer to hopefully get different answers. Money. My mother did not die of natural causes, it was provider error. My father sued the hospital, and my sister and I have sizable trusts with that money. So money is not an issue for either of us, and her husband is financially well off as well. So not working for 9 months or paying for the egg retrieval process, etc. isn't an issue in any way. It's more so her stubbornness for the baby to share our DNA and for one of us to be carrying it. Since we're identical, if she can't have a baby, then how can I? Her lack of being able to have a child is due to a car accident that we were in, which is also the source of the miscarriage that she experienced. Due to her being in the front seat with our father, they took the brunt of the crash, unfortunately. Her body is now unable to carry a child, and she has had extreme complications with egg retrieval. I'm not sure about the details of how that has gone wrong, just that it is not working and not an option. It's hard to get her to discuss non-viable options so I can gain a better understanding. Doctors will not allow me to be a surrogate due to me not having a child. Thank you so much for this information. We have family dinner coming up this Thursday because we always watch football with our dads and significant others. I'm sure this topic will come up if she decides to attend, and I'm hoping that I can bring this up to her. Yeah, that's a very good linchpin to have in your arsenal, OP. I definitely think that you want to continually push the issue with that one. Say, I'm never planning to have kids myself, and I can't be a surrogate because I haven't had kids yet, so you're in a catch-22 situation, Mr. Sister. This ain't gonna work out the way you think it is. As hard as it is to be in conflict with your sibling in this situation, and it's obvious that you do have a lot of love for her, that I can definitely see, what is the better option for you here? Is it placating your sister and getting pregnant potentially twice just so that she can have one child? With surrogacy as well, that's a really invasive and hormonally intensive process, not to mention everything else along with that process. Or is it easier for you to just keep saying no and have to deal with not talking to her for a while? To me, it's like, would I rather climb Mount Everest, or would I rather walk up this hill that has Lego blocks on it and I'm barefoot and it's really painful and inconvenient and I don't want to do it, but it sure as hell is easier than going up Mount Everest, that's for sure. And now onto the update. So I promised an update tomorrow, but my dad actually ended up calling me while I was hanging out and told me to come over for dinner yesterday night so we could talk. I want to start by saying thank you so much for all the comments and advice. Some of you are jerks to not only me, but my sister and boyfriend as well, but I still appreciate the help. I didn't even ask about what when my dad called. I figured he had spoken to Stacy. Based on comments, I know you guys won't be happy, but I spoke with my boyfriend about where his head was if I were to go forward with it. He told me that he loved me and would support me through any and everything. But he would not continue to sit by while my sister made me feel like trash, and if I was doing this under coercion, he would not be able to support me, which I honestly completely understand. When we went over to my dad's for dinner, my sister and brother-in-law were already there. I spoke to them both when we walked in, but only my sister replied. My brother-in-law gave me the most disgusting look and greeted my boyfriend only. My dad sat us down at the table, and there was just this awkward silence and tension that I could cut with a butcher knife. He said, "Somebody talk. We need to get this resolved before the game tomorrow night." My dad loves football. I started off the conversation by telling her that I did some research, and at top of my initial concerns, I now had a few more and needed to know exactly what she needed from me. I first asked her what being a surrogate would look like. She just said, "Are you agreeing to it?" When I told her no, I just needed some more details, she broke down crying. I asked her if she knew that a doctor would deny me from being a surrogate, given that I've never successfully carried a child to term, and she said she knew that, and she would just send my brother-in-law and I to a center of excellence. We can pretend we're a couple, and once I'm successfully inseminated, then I would request a transfer from that provider to her OBGYN for the continuation of care. My father intervened and said that asking me to do something a doctor wouldn't sign off on was a terrible way to attempt to begin motherhood. You could tell that he wasn't on board with any of it, but didn't want to pick a side. He asked her why she was so uncomfortable with the idea of a surrogate, and that's when my brother-in-law interjected and said, "Don't try to berate my wife with these stupid questions. Talk to your selfish witch of a daughter about why she can't help her sister." That immediately shifted the mood. My boyfriend started to yell at him for calling me a witch. My dad told him he could not disrespect his daughters in his home. Everything just went up in flames. My sister was crying, asking me to do her this favor, practically begging. I told her that if I could trade places with her, I would. But I was scared and just didn't want to die. I think that was the first time I had ever said that out loud. We couldn't get more solved after that. My dad asked my brother-in-law to leave because he couldn't control himself and refused to apologize. When he was walking out, my sister told him she would meet him in the car, asked me to come and talk to her on the porch, just the two of us. I went out with her and she apologized for her husband calling me a witch, said that they were just on edge and that it's been stressful. I told her that she shouldn't apologize for him and that we'd figure something out. She asked me to reconsider and just kept saying, "You don't get it. You don't understand." When I pressured her for more, she admitted that her in-laws made a cruel joke at one of their dinners recently about how she was a murderer, referring to the child she lost. She said she asked him why he didn't stand up for her when they made the joke, and he said because it was true. Oh, shit. Oh my God. That's a divorce. He made some weird comments about her not being able to make up for it, and how he was so excited to see what their child would look like, and how he would never be able to look into a child and see pieces of them both. So she had this idea of me carrying the child, and he was super on board. But the way she said it was like he planted a seed, and she seems to believe that it was her idea. She said she hadn't seen him that excited since the baby, and she just needed my help to get everything back to normal. I tried to explain to her that nothing would ever be normal again, and that what she was trying to do was the wrong thing. But he just started blaring the horn, rushing her to the car, and she said that she would call me later. I feel like I may lose my sister, but I now am not even willing to donate my eggs for her to have a baby with him. I took your guys' advice and looked up the egg donation process, and wow, not at all what I expected. I want her to divorce him. I am never going to help her procreate with that man. I genuinely think that I would be a surrogate for her to be a single mom before I would ever allow her to place his child in me or take my eggs to ever create a child with him. I had no clue that his family was pushing so much guilt onto her. I have literally been jumping at my phone every time it rings because I know she'll be calling soon, and I'll have to tell her that. I'm terrified I'll lose my sister, but I can't and won't do this. Probably won't update anymore, but thanks for all the help. I'll probably create my own Reddit now because I'm kind of obsessed with this site. Lol. In the comments, Demirag says, "What a manipulative bastard he is. Your sister should divorce and stay away from her in-laws. No wonder that man is the way he is. He needs therapy ASAP." OP showing some healthy backbone, about which there was some doubt in the first post. Assuming this is real, it's a super stressful situation, but she appears to be rising to the occasion. Assholes seems like an inadequate word to describe sister's husband and his family. Who the hell thinks being a surrogate is a small ask? OP is so nice. I would stop talking to my sister myself if I had one and she thought that it was my duty to be her incubator. And a man has no right to even say what women should be willing to do. This whole thing is insane. The sister is complicit, but she's also a victim here. The brother-in-law and family are toxic, manipulative, and disgusting. If OP can stay in touch without engaging with the family, she might save her sister. Oh my god, I was getting sick to my stomach reading this. So afraid they had pushed you into this. Thank God you came to the conclusion that the awful man should not be a father. His family shouldn't be around children either. Somehow, your sister needs to realize that even if she finds a way to get him his child, she will always be treated like this by him and his family. In fact, he may escalate. I don't know if he was once a decent guy or not. Many couples who lose a child change and can't recover. Concentrate on saving your sister, not the asshole. Hell, those in-laws would probably kick OP's poor sister to the curb the minute they would get a baby from her. So it may be for the best, especially with how toxic they all appear to be. Sometimes with miscarriages, the issue could be with the husband having poor quality sperm, not necessarily the egg. So that's something to consider, not the asshole. Honestly, what a mess. That threw me in a tailspin hearing him say that and hearing the family say that, because in what world was her being in a car accident, her murdering that child, like... Oh my god, I'd be out of there yesterday. I'd be out of there last year. What a vile and pathetic excuse for a family that is. How she can stay with this guy after hearing that from them and having him support them instead of being like, "What is wrong with you absolute losers? Jesus Christ." I'm very much concerned for her. I am very much concerned for her safety and her future. I do hope that in future updates, if we get them, which we probably will, OP does something to help her sister get the hell out of there. Because I feel like he is going to escalate his behavior. Anyway, definitely not the asshole. Thank you for sharing your story with us. All the best in the future, OP. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.